New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and it is my great joy to be here today. We have an Enneagram episode today, and I have my beloved friend and partner, Reverend Michelle Medrano. And where are you, Michelle? Here she comes. There she is. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we are here today to talk about several things. Michelle, as many of you already know, is a minister, teacher, leader, nourisher, guide, Enneagram coach, expert, and so much more at the Mile High Church in Denver. And so we thought that we would share a few of the things that have been in our hearts and minds and dive into some Enneagram content. And so, Michelle, what's going on with you? Where are you? How are you?
Oh, that's a big question, isn't it, right now? So I've been enjoying the first of the year energy with a lot of people, girlfriends and friends locally, and my community was setting intentions for our year, and at the same time feeling the freshness of a brand new year upon us, while all sorts of things are going on in the world that are heartbreaking and disturbing. And so talking with a lot of people, a lot of friends, addressing some of this in messages and supporting people. So it's a very interesting polarity, I would say, in this brand new year that we have. And so it's charged times for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because here at Satya, our spiritual community, we too have been putting a lot of emphasis on visioning, casting a vision for 2026. And as I've been preparing for that, and we do this every year, there's a lot of excitement for the new year and to get clear on who we're becoming, how we want to show up in the world. And I also do some personal one-on-one coaching and group coaching. And so that's the energy that's going on there too. But when you overlay it with what's going on in our country, on the news, around the world, it does seem to be a bit of a juxtaposition of energies. It's all heightened energy. It's all a lot of energy. So, I think of the phrase that is used in CSL, creating a world that works for everyone. And I sort of scratch my head during this time, while it seems like there's so much polarity, as you said, and people seem to be wanting, well, on the surface, it appears that they want different things. But I think underneath, as you and I both know, we teach waking up, the science of mind, the Enneagram, and we know that people are all seeking the same thing: to be seen, to be heard, to feel like they're seen and heard, and to know what's really important, and to feel loved. And so we're all kind of, on the scale of how we go about, moving through our worlds, we're all we all have a particular focus on how we bring our vision alive, how we cope with what's going on, and what's really important.
Yeah.
And so, what are you feeling at Mile High? You have a unique opportunity um, to meet or to engage with hundreds of people every week that have a particular interest in being spiritually fed and growing spiritually. So, what are you getting a sense of out there in the world?
Well, there's two things for me that I think are important with what we're talking about in this part of our discussion. The first one is that that concept that you brought up from CSL about the Centers for Spiritual Living, about how a world that works for everyone. It's a journey, and I think it's an evolutionary journey. And I think that where these conversations intersect, where we're talking about setting intentions for our future and the the freshness of a new year, I think many of us have discovered that when we start to pursue a journey of something we've never attained before using these principles, there will be moments of obstacles, moments of failure, moments of learning, moments of it just going the absolute opposite direction. And I often joke with people in classes that I look forward to the day when people who in this teaching are moving forward and can see that they're moving in a certain direction and it falls apart, and that they could celebrate and go, "Ooh, I must be on the right track." Because that's part of the journey. I think we persist in having this illusion that on the journey to what I ultimately want, it's just going to be flowers and everything's just going to work out. And I'm not going to have to encounter any of my own resistance or my own unhealed past or my own unconscious hidden beliefs. So I'm just going to say that's what I want, and I'm going to claim it and own it and pray about it, and boom, there it is. Bob's your uncle, right? And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that individually or collectively.
Mm.
So, in the evolutionary journey, what I'm talking about is, and what I think even yesterday in our service, Reverend Josh said in his talk, and I totally agree with, is that sometimes things get worse before they get better. Now, in the world front, I think it's a similar story. I think, like you, that most people not only want all that you articulated about being seen and heard and feeling love, they want a deep connection, and they do want a world that works. But we have all sorts of diverse beliefs about what that world would look like and how we would deal with the challenges we face around our economy and our disagreements with each other, and social justice issues and cultural issues and religious issues. And so we're not looking to create a whole planet of AI who all believe the same thing. How do we live as diverse beings and still have peace, and have everyone have food, and have everyone have shelter, and have everyone have safety? And that's a big goal. And on our way there, for hundreds of years now, we have faced the resistance of that. And one could say, well, that's a problem of the leaders. It's a problem of government. It's a problem, wherever you want to label it. The way creation works is that each one of us is a cell in the body of God, and each one of us, through our own healing journey, is contributing to what's happening out there. And so it's hard to imagine that it could get any worse. Just when I think it's gotten the worst it could get, something happens, and it's just like, oh. And none of this is to say that we go, oh, well, that's just evolution. It's not. No, our hearts get broken open, and what lives in the news cycle that disturbs us then becomes our work. And so what we talked about also yesterday is the propensity, when something bad happens, to jump to the fringes, even politically or culturally, rather than jumping to center. For when we jump to center, the place that's available to us in center is that we can see ourselves more clearly, see our own beliefs and wounds that are getting in the way. We can see the system more clearly, and I think we can see what's ours to do and what's not ours to do. what is mine to do on my own path as I see what's happening in the world, and following my soul's invitation versus following what upsets me, or following what you know uh, activates stuff inside of me that is demanding healing of me. And so it's like, how can I not only have my heart broken open that a shooting occurred and a young woman was shot to death, and I can feel horrified by that, and can I feel horrified at the man who did it? Not that he's a jerk or an idiot, but like, what's in him that would cause him to do that? Can I have compassion for that choice that he made, that horrific choice that he made? And so when we jump to the fringes, we want to defend or support either viewpoint. When we jump to center, we see the whole thing through the eyes of divine love, and we get to say, not okay, absolutely not okay that it occurred. And to stop it doesn't just mean, being angry at the shooter or being angry at the woman in the car. It requires us to love and have compassion for both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Holding both,
Yeah.
holding it all, and occupying that essential self,
Hmm.
is, I think I just led a women's group this weekend, and we discussed a lot about what we can do for ourselves, as we jump to the fringe and then come back to center, and kind of go wander in between those 2 points. And we all talked about our spiritual practice,
Yes.
that's the thing that truly keeps us centered, grounded, holding the high watch, however you want to term it. And for me, every year I create a new, what I call a soul purpose mantra.
Hmm.
And that has been key to my practice each morning, in as I stay in that space of feeling that I can make a difference in the world, by maintaining and occupying that essential self. And so my husband and I, we say our mantras out loud, and
Yes.
we do prayer treatment, and we do some meditation, and then some discussing of, how we're going to move through the world today with a more open heart, a strong back and a soft front, is
Hmm.
a Buddhist teaching. And I like that. Well, my mantra for this year is, see if I can remember it. It's only been 12
It's
days
only been
since
a few days. Yeah.
so it's, I am centered in my essential self,
Yeah. Love it.
filled with awe and appreciation for all of life's beauty and blessings. I move through the world responding with and gentle energy and something strength. No,
Mm,
peaceful energy and gentle strength.
mm.
And the last phrase is, I have faith that the power of love transforms everything, everywhere, all the time.
That's beautiful, Allie. That's just beautiful.
And as Michael and I are learning this mantra together, it's it overwhelmingly stirs up emotions
Mhm.
of love, of connection, with my husband and I being on the same wavelength, and knowing that we can only do what we can do in the quiet of our own home, or our own mind, or our own heart, or our own body. And so I feel, after we have these morning sessions, very deliberate,
Mhm.
very centered in my, not only my own presence, but centered in what's really valuable and meaningful to me this year. Because every year it changes slightly depending on what's going on. What's going on in the world, what's going on in my family, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on in me as I age and things change. There's always an opportunity to, occupy ourselves in a way that we can feel useful, feel connected. And, I think that's what's helping me these days. And the other women in my group shared their spiritual practices, and it seems really that us as ministers, as teachers of new thought, of science of mind, metaphysics, the laws and principles, that this time, I'm sure we say this every decade, but this time is sort of our time.
Yeah.
Where this is a perfect opportunity to be supporting individuals, communities, and then our own lives, our own families. So I feel so blessed to, we're sort of in this sacred sisterhood of ministry and Enneagram wisdom. And I am so grateful to your mother, who's our teacher with the Enneagram here, because I have to remember that's what we're talking about today. But I feel so grateful for the things that I've learned over the years that keep me centered in myself and feeling powerful. That like I do make a difference, even if I don't see anyone today. I know that I'm doing something to affect the energy, to evolve my own consciousness, and hopefully be a beneficial presence to others when I do go out into the world.
And I think that what you've just said is the crux of the issue, is that no matter what faith tradition we're in or what part of the world, that the priority is for humans to have, I think, a deepened connection with the divine that lives in and as them. Upon having that and experiencing that connection, we are changed and transformed forever. I don't think it lives in one faith tradition either. I'm certainly not saying it's just our faith tradition offers it, because if we study the mystics that have existed throughout the ages, they have arisen out of every and all faith traditions. Yet they have all shouted the same message of oneness and love. And in my mind, that should be our priority. If every human were suddenly experiencing that oneness, I think we would solve all of the problems on this planet a lot faster, because that feeling immediately causes me to do what we were talking about in the beginning, to have compassion, even for the people that I disdain or I don't approve of, to be willing to see through different eyes. And therefore, how I go out in the world is from a place that's truly being what I'm saying is part of my goal this year, being a peacemaker from that standpoint. And I think the biggest mistake that we make as humans is that we think life occurs from the outside in versus from the inside out. And so we're desperately attempting to try to change things out there. And not that that's a wrong thing, but if it's done with poor motivation or a lack of centeredness or a lack of love and true justice, which is all about restoration of connection, the truest form of justice is that, restoring even a criminal's connection to themselves, even a perpetrator's connection to themselves, so that they can experience that kind of love and connection and make different choices instead. There's all sorts of things about that are important. But I think that that spiritual practice, as prosaic as it might seem to some, is the primary thing that if I could shout out to the rooftops, would invite humans to do, however they come across it, whether it's a walking meditation, their yoga practice, their spiritual practice, their quiet meditation, their mindfulness practice. And you notice that these things are becoming more and more marketable in the world, because I think humans are sensing that that path is the path that leads to peace. and just having a hard time sometimes enacting it in their busy, hectic, scary, heartbreaking lives, because that's where it falls apart. When I've noticed over the years, I'm curious if you've noticed this, that I will have people who are dedicated to this teaching, often to a spiritual community, and something really painful happens to them. They lose a loved one unexpectedly, or a dream falls apart. And because they experience pain, they abandon the path.
Mm.
And when they and there's a lack of understanding on this path and many other paths, that there's no God out there to fix it and make it better. We are the living embodiment of God. So our pain is showing us where there's a disconnect, where there's distortion, where there's work to be done. And we have to walk through it. We can't just bury it. We can't just put it aside. We can't just pretend it's not there. We can't just affirm it away. We've got to walk through those paths to get back to center. But I find it really fascinating that when there's pain, we abandon what we know to be true. And collectively right now, that's the temptation that's afoot here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's so, yeah, I have seen that, where people go through something and step away. And I'm always not looking, but when people come to me, I'm always wanting to help them see the motivation behind stepping away, or self-sabotaging, or falling into that victim space. And I think that our teaching, or spiritual, development or personal growth, is so dependent on self-awareness and understanding that, like you said, people are trying to fix things from the outside in, and it really does always start from the inside out. And I think that personal responsibility it can be a tricky thing to teach or to learn, because we've been so conditioned since
yes.
childhood to be looking to the outside. And so
Right.
so many people that are not on their spiritual path per se, or that maybe they are, but they're just not fully taking responsibility for it. They don't have the bandwidth to take that inner journey and take full responsibility, because it's so conditioned to be, outwardly focused, identified with the world outside.
Mhm.
And therefore, they've stepped away from where the answers are, and they're always within.
Right.
And so, as you were speaking and I was feeling into what you were saying, I'm thinking of the Enneagram as a path. Well, like your website, 9 paths to the soul. I'm thinking of the Enneagram as such a good map for, not only what's going on with the individual, but as we look out to the world stage, to our leadership, to the influences that we see out there, we can see, knowing the Enneagram, and there's 9 types. There's the Enneagram sort of maps out 9 types of personalities, and what each of those 9 types seem to struggle with in relation to their shadow and their gifts. And as we look to those outside of ourselves, we can, once we've understood this, that everyone's dealing with a personality structure that they've created over time. And when you're not awake to that, you can see that people, myself included, can fall into negative patterns of trying to control things, or feeling victimized by things, or trying to keep the peace, or people please, or overgive, or overdo, or avoid, or have anxiety, or always be on the search for something better. Like we can see that this map, this Enneagram, this system can help us not only navigate our own ups and downs, but we can have maybe more compassion when we see people in the world, people that we're having struggles with in our own lives at work and within our families. We can see these power plays or these strategies that people default to when they get hurt or sad or frightened. And so I think the Enneagram for me has really helped me gain perspective and to sort of come at things a little differently, taking my own advice, starting on the inside,
Right.
Coming from a place of equanimity, of more balanced thinking, knowing there are extremes. We can move from, connection with people to shame about who we are, or fear about, something, or more trust in something. We can navigate these pendulum swings within our relationships and within the outer world, but it always starts within ourselves.
Yes, and I think it's a great starting point, because I think when people start to understand what we're saying, that, hey, there are things going on in the world that I don't like, and what if I am part of that problem? Like I was saying earlier, Deepak Chopra saying we're all a cell in the body of God. So he would say, are you being a cell of love and light, or are you a toxic cancerous cell? And the cancer cells there's big tumors happening in the world right now with all the violence and all the disparity that's going on. And so when you say to somebody, heal your own stuff is part of the plan, most people say, I don't even know where to start, or they go into denial. I don't have anything to heal. There's nothing's traumatic happened to me. There's nothing wrong with my childhood. And so it can be hard to grasp. It can be hard to figure out where to start. The Enneagram and other systems that are out there, but the Enneagram is what we're focused on, and the system that we have learned and that we have had great personal self-discovery, gives people a starting place to do exactly what you're saying, looking at their blind spots, looking at when there's an understanding of that typology, I can at the very least start to awaken to, oh, maybe I need to work on the part of me that thinks I'm only as valuable as what I do versus who I am. Wow, I need to look. And it becomes a lens through which I can witness myself being in my world. I can witness myself being in my relationships. I can witness myself taking action in the world to make a difference and discover what's working and what's not working. And that can be very empowering for our journey to have that lens and be able to see ourselves more clearly. That's a great gift. And so I think that's one of the things that the Enneagram definitely gives us: deepened self-knowledge, a great pathway.
Well, why don't we take a short break?
Sounds good.
It's the bottom of the hour, and we'll come back and dive in a little more to the Enneagram, and then a course that you're teaching with your mother.
Yes.
Is it the mother and daughter wound? Is that
healing the mother-daughter wound? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, Thank you. And please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Come be you.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
And I'm back here with Michelle, my Enneagram partner here. And we're talking about what's going on in the world. We're talking about spiritual path, awakening. And you and I have both become ministers in the New Thought world space. And we've also have a great passion for the Enneagram. Your mother is our teacher, or one of our teachers. Mm-hmm. And so you've been around the Enneagram a lot longer than I have. And I'd like to maybe dive into what is it that causes us to be a particular Enneagram type? Because I meet a little resistance sometimes out there in the world as I'm talking to people about the Enneagram. They'll say, oh, I don't want to be typed or put into a box. And so there's that energy. And what I know is our Enneagram type isn't who we are. It's how we learn to survive and belong in our worlds. And that our Enneagram type is formed very early on by our environment, the people in our lives, and the way we go about trying to fit in or get our needs met. And so how do you speak to those that are a little leery of being typed, or understand that they have a type?
Well, I was one of those people when I first heard about it. And I think there's also some indication that there might be a genetic component too, which is also a part of how we might get to our type. But I felt the same way. I think I literally said to my mother when she started talking to me about the Enneagram is that I don't want to be put into a box. I don't want to be, it felt limiting to me. And then I realized something she often says is true, is that until you have more self-awareness, you're in the box. You're really in the box. When you learn about who you are through a system like this, and what your blind spots are and what your challenges are, and it's such a rich system. It's not just like, it's not like reading your horoscope every day. Well, I'm a Sagittarius, my sun sign is Sagittarius. If you know anything about astrology, that's not even the end of the story with that. It's a deeper dive into astrology even than that. So I feel that as I learned more about myself and others, it helped me get out of the boxes that I had placed myself in, boxes of limitation, boxes of a lack of awareness, boxes of my unhealed past. So it's really been more freeing than boxing in, and allowed me to see myself and others with greater compassion. Because of what you said earlier, even though I don't run around typing other people, I often say, if I can look at a condition and recognize that I'm making meaning out of that condition. And if I can be creative, which is something that improv theater taught me years ago, and make up a whole other story about why that might be happening, there's a possibility that other story might be true.
Mm.
And it's the same for me. If I can look at somebody and I can say, wow, I'm wondering if that person seems like they're acting a little bit in the 8 energy. Maybe they are an 8, and I understand what motivates an 8, and I can have compassion for that. It helps me see others more clearly, even though they may not be an 8, and I would never typecast someone in that. But at the very least, it creates what I'm talking about, which is that we just need to stop making stories up about ourselves and other people. And this is just one way to do that. I can have a different story. I can facilitate myself in healing when I understand that because I am a 3, I do have a need, sometimes an overwhelming need, to look perfect and act perfectly so that you will love me and accept me. And when I can feel myself doing that, when it goes against everything I really want to be doing, I can take a deep breath and I can make a new choice. If I don't know this about myself, I'm just going to fall into that hole over and over and over again. So
Mhm.
I think it's an expansion to our awareness that really serves us in the long run.
Yeah, I think of something your mother says often, which is that our ego can hijack our essence.
Yeah, strangle our essence even, she
Strength,
talks
yeah,
about.
she uses that word.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the 8. Maybe we quickly run through, because you said you don't like to type people, because, and we were taught that we don't
Yeah,
type
we don't
people. We
touch
don't
people.
even make a suggestion of what type we think they might be. But if I'm honest, I too can pick up on particular energies and think, that could be 8 energy. And I happen to have a lot of 8s around me. And so maybe we start with the 8.
Mhm.
What when you're out there in the world and you're seeing people behaving badly or behaving wonderfully or whatever they're doing, what is the indication that someone might be an 8?
Well, as I understand the 8s, they are very, they have big energy, and that can be big dynamic energy or it can be big bossy energy. And that's the thing about every single type. There's the more healthier version of every type and the more unhealthy version. And they're all very complicated. And depending upon their relationship with other numbers on the wheel, can look a little bit differently. But the main qualities that we can see in a type 8 personality, they're often the people who stand up for the little guy every time. They would be the kind of person who, in school, if someone was being bullied, would probably have the courage to stand up and say, no, that's not okay, and stand up for the underdog or the person being bullied. When at their worst, they also can be a power hungry, barking police officer, or someone who's got some power who uses it wrongly or uses it to harm other people because their ego can get caught up in the power and control because that's what they crave. And it's a safety thing. They feel that they're safest when they can be in control and be in power. So an unhealthy 8 can be very scary and bossy and
Angry?
power angry and power hungry, whereas a healthy 8 can be someone who's out there fighting for social justice and out there making a difference in the world and standing up for the underdogs as they see it and that sort of thing. So they can also be very effective in their work to support people.
Yeah, and some of the 8s I know, aside from what you said, they're actually quite soft on the inside. They're kind of hard
Exactly.
on the outside and soft
Yeah,
on the inside. And it's
exactly.
that
Yeah,
softness that many of the unhealthy 8s try to protect, being
right.
vulnerable.
Being vulnerable.
Um,
Mm.
so, we're going to run through these quickly so you can kind of get a sense of like, okay, there's these 9 different types, and they all developed that persona to protect or try and get something. And
Yes.
so we're going to morph into the wounds, but just going through these types will help us to understand why people, there is a wound often within people that they're trying to protect, part of their personality that feels unsafe or unheard or unloved.
And you're
So
right
what
about
about,
the eight. The eight, I think, is that they're feeling sometimes the need to hide that profound vulnerable sense they have inside. Yeah.
yeah, how about the nines? We've got the nines that are the peacemakers.
Well,
And go
mhm.
ahead.
No, you go ahead. What were you going to say? And
And I see the nines that I know, or the ones I perceive as nines sometimes, as they're kind of they like to go along. They like to offer their opinion, or because they want to make sure that it won't affect anyone else negatively, or it will somehow create a disturbance. They want to keep things going and flowing, and but often they don't speak up for themselves out of that fear of trying to keep the peace, or they don't prioritize themselves because they're busy, you know, in other people's business, really, because they're looking out there trying to control what's out there versus take care of um, their own inner peace.
yeah, and one of the gifts and the curses I think of a nine is that they can often see all sides of a story. They are
Mm-hmm.
able, because of being a peacemaker, they can see that side and this side, and then they don't feel, like you said, that they can take a stand, so they might appear to be kind of mamby-pamby to people, or be not very active, or not very forward moving, and they can get very pulled off of their own agenda, even if they lay claim to, this is what I need to do. Someone can go, well, you really should think about going that way, and I can be very convinced to go that way and not stay on track with what they felt guided to do. So that can
Yeah.
happen for a nine. Mhm.
So bear in mind, what could have caused that child to develop that operating system
Exactly. Mhm.
in their childhood. So what about the what are we going to? The ones now, I guess?
Yeah. Yes, the ones focus, as I see it, is very focused on right and wrong, doing it right, getting it right, versus doing it wrong and getting it wrong. So I happen to be married to a one. And so I do hear him as he watches what goes on in his work life, in his own mind, and in the world at large, where he can get really caught up is making it all wrong. They're
Mm.
wrong for doing that. They're wrong for doing that. They're wrong for doing that. And, he's got the right answers. And so I think that I have a lot of compassion for ones, because just as you said about the nines and the eights, every one of them has had some background where they felt like at some point, being right is what you had to do to survive. Being
Hmm.
right was the best way to get approval, to get love, and so that's their focus, and they can often come across um, very strong to people who are near them. And their superpower is they often are right, and they are often detail oriented people who can see that little number in that column that's not the right number, that changes the whole picture of something. So they have a keen awareness. So I would say that's also can be a blessing and a curse to a one. Is
Yeah, because they can come across as nitpicky or
yes,
critical.
yes.
And the thing to know about ones is that they're the harshest critic on themselves.
Oh, of course,
And
yes.
so, you have to think, where did that wound come from?
Mhm.
All right, moving along to number twos, and my husband's a number two. And
Yes.
twos are known as the helpers, and they can really be focused on other people, of being helpful, of maybe giving the help that they didn't feel they got when they were a child. Maybe
Mm,
there was times in their lives where they didn't feel connected to others around them, cared for, helped. And so I know my husband can really get caught up in overgiving, over helping, not taking care of his own needs or his own life, because he's focused out there on gaining that acknowledgement or that appreciation through being helpful.
yes, definitely. Yeah.
And so you have to, think about the wound for that one. How
Mhm.
about the threes? You're pretty good at sharing about the threes.
Yes, because I lead with the three, and I've already mentioned some of the wounds of the three, which is at some point getting the message that I was only valued for what I did and not who I am. And so I learned to do a lot and do it well and do it right and get it right. A similar stand as a one, but the ones have a motivation of I do it right because there's a wrong and a right way versus us threes who our motivation for doing it right is the more right I do it, the more you'll love me, the more you'll approve of me, the more you'll accept me. And so there's a lot of people we can see in the world who are making choices based on a need for approval. That's a wound that many humans have, and especially us threes have that one.
Mm. And then there's the fours, and I lead with type 4. And I think for the fours, it's maybe seeking to be seen. Maybe we weren't seen or acknowledged, or maybe we didn't get the attention we felt like we needed as a child. So we have a sense that our emotions aren't being seen or felt or acknowledged. We as individuals aren't. So we go about trying to be special or stand out or unique or creative in some way that's going to make people love us and appreciate us and stay with us, because
Yeah.
there's always a fear of abandonment
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with the fours. And then the fives, those are the investigators.
Yes, yes. The fives, the fives are very caught up in. I have two dogs, so this is the word I'm going to use: resource guarding. But resources for fives are often their energy, their space, their time, their money, and so they're very conscious and conscientious about not spending the resources that are vital to them. They are often very intelligent people. They take the extra steps to learn about who they are and learn about their craft, if you will, their whatever they're interested in, and love to become experts. And so there are a lot of quiet people who are very intelligent, fively people out there doing the work, and that their woundedness is often, I think, they feel angry at the disturbances of the world into their space. And so there's an undercurrent sometimes with fives of anger and just kind of a just leave me alone kind of a vibe that you might get about a five, and don't talk to me, or don't bug me, and that sort of thing. And that can be very challenging for people who love fives.
Yeah. And then there's the sixes, and the sixes are known as the loyalist or sometimes the loyal skeptic. And sixes can be very anxious, very concerned about what might happen, and always preparing for those things that they perceive might happen. So what's your experience with sixes? There's a couple types. There's ones that are really kind of timid and ask a lot of questions because there's a lot of uncertainty. And then there are those that are more aggressive and ask questions, but they've got the same motivation. They're trying to avoid danger and fear. And what's your experience with?
Yes, yeah. And sixes can be sometimes scapegoats to people, because a six in a group might be the first one to say, well, what if it all goes wrong? Or what if that happens? Because they really want to know. And other people who want them to be more positive will sometimes make them wrong for that. But sixes, that is their superpower. And they're also their insecure point at the same time, is that their fear can often override that deeper wisdom that they have inside them about what's best for them or best in a situation. And instead they'll just get caught up in either the phobic fear, which is afraid of everything, or the counterphobic fear, which is I don't care how afraid I am, I'm going to charge forward anyway. And so but you're right, I think it is all about managing the fear that's inside of them.
Yeah. And so you can imagine where those wounds came from as a child, that living in an uncertainty situation could provoke that anxiety. And then finishing off with the sevens.
Yes.
You want to talk about the sevens a little bit, the enthusiast?
Yes, the sevens, and they are very enthusiastic. They tend to be the like I think mom calls them the otters of the universe. They're the ones who often are very positive and if you start to talk, let's talk about what's going on in the White House. Oh, we don't need to talk about any of that. Let's not get into any of that negative stuff kind of thing. They can often be in denial about things that are painful or dark or uncomfortable, and they thrive on options. They want as many options as possible in their space and in the world. And so what makes them feel secure is if they know that they've got lots of possibilities to explore in their personal life, their career life, and their relationships, and their social life. And so a lot of their resistance is about not going down into that deep space of pain or suffering or unpleasantness, and finding ways to avoid that space.
Mm. And you can imagine why a child might develop that persona
Yes.
based on maybe there wasn't enough, or they
Right.
felt limited or trapped as a child. So
Hmm.
I'd like to move into talking about what you're doing currently with your mom with the healing the mother-daughter wound,
Hmm.
because it does relate to what we're talking about. Because
Right.
if you think about it, your mother or your daughter or your father or your brother, whomever, could be a different type than you, that's coming from their own insecurities. And then as children, with our parents, we see these big ones that are, treating us certain ways, or not giving the attention that we need, or praising us for doing certain things and shaming us for others, and then we develop our own personality out of this. And I
Hmm.
know in the workshop or the course that you're teaching, because I just took it back in
Hmm.
November, that you talk about our parents are coming from different generations.
Hmm.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the wound, the mother-daughter wound, and healing, um, and what you have coming up with your mum, Linda?
Yes, sure. So I think you've articulated it really well, that the wounds from our past often are shaping our future. And even people who say, well, I don't really have a lot of woundedness with my mother. Like even now, I can say to you, I have a beautiful relationship with my mother. I love my mother. We get along well, and I trust her completely, and I know she trusts me. And when I was a child, the things that have developed in me as a three around thinking that I'm only as important as what I do versus who I am definitely came from a young mother and young father who did not know how to love me just as I was. I mean, how many of our parents actually knew how to do that? And so I think, especially for women who are seeking to be powerful women in the world and make a difference, that primary relationship with our mother. And I often say, the relationship I have with my mother as a child is a completely different relationship. And it bears understanding, and it bears healing, and it needs me to smooth it out. I can't just bury it in the past and say, oh, well, that was in the past. And so it really behooves me as a human being and as a woman on this planet to keep looking at and being willing to heal any woundedness I have about how I wasn't loved the way I wanted to be loved, or how I wasn't seen the way I wanted to be seen. So we've created a 4-week course that does deal with some of the topics that you've mentioned, looking at how to create a greater freedom and a smoothing out of our relationship with our mothers, so that we can be more powerful in our choices in our world, powerful in our womanhood, powerful as mothers ourselves, often to our daughters, powerful as in our careers, powerful in our partnerships, our romantic partnerships, powerful in our bodies, so that any of that leftover stuff that we might still have that's contributing to our lack of joy, our lack of happiness, or our lack of ability to create the life we want to live can be let go. So we look at generational psychology. We look a lot at the boundaries. We look at Enneagram and how that might have impacted. And we look a lot at forgiveness and how to actually go about forgiving our mothers for these challenges. So we did a four week series. It's all online, and we're going to be teaching it beginning February 9th for 4 Monday evenings, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. If you can't attend a session, it's fine. We're going to record all the sessions as long as we have permission from the participants. And there's some vulnerable sharing that happens, so people can pause the recording if they don't want to have something on the recording. But if you can't make a session, you can get it via video the following week. So we had a number of women take it this last time, and it really seemed to strike a nerve for the women. And so we're ready to do another round of it. So we are starting registrations for it.
Beautiful. And where can people find that registration?
Well, right now I know that the flyer exists on Facebook, on my Facebook page, my private Michelle Medrano Facebook page. I've put the flyer there, and people can email my mother, Linda Frazee. It's LindaFrazee 11 @gmail.com to get a copy of the flyer sent to them or to register for the class. So.
Yeah, it was a great course. I attended a couple of the courses live, and then because I was traveling, I had to catch up watching the replay video, which was great because I, unfortunately couldn't be there for those Monday evenings. And I really was struck. The group of women that I was a part of, there was a great age range. So we had younger women and older women. And I would imagine that some of the women in the course were my mother's age. And so I found that to be really interesting to hear them share about some struggles that they had with their child, because some of the people were there talking about struggles they had with their own daughters or sons. And so it was interesting to hear from 80-year-olds or 70-year-olds talking about their children that are my age. And so it was quite interesting to consider. I grew up in England. My mother grew up in England. My mother grew up in the Depression. My father grew up in the Depression. All of these things have impact on our parents. And what was important during those years. There was food scarcity. There was fear. In England, there was World War II going on. So there was, whatever country you're in, whatever was going on in the government, in the environment, in the workplace, in the culture, affects us and how we parent. And so it also gave me the insight into, how am I parenting my children? And can I do it differently? Should I do it differently? Or do I need to deepen into how I, bringing more of my values in, speak up a bit more? I'm a very quiet mother, one that doesn't want to interfere, doesn't want to tell her children how to think or do. And as I sort of have looked at that, I realized maybe I do need to speak up a bit more about what I'm feeling. I can be very nine-ish, type 9, and kind of just let everyone else have an opinion and I just observe. And so listening to the other women, diving into, who my mother was as a young woman, a young English woman, and realizing that I am empowered to be the mother I want to be. It's not fixed. It can change. Right. And that's what you and your mom helped me to see. So thank you for that.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I love hearing that. Appreciate it so much.
Well, thanks for being here, having another Enneagram chat. It's been really fun. I love how it all weaves in together, and I look forward to doing it again with you.
Thank you.
For those of you that want to know more about the Healing the Mother-Daughter Wound course that Michelle and her mother, Linda Frazee, have coming up, find Michelle on Facebook and her mother, Linda Frazee, and we'll see you next time, next Monday here at The Growing Edge. Bye-bye. Love and blessings.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge.